guys, this is Travis with the Landscapers Academy. Today I wanted to show you how I made this exact landscape plan and this exact fly-through video to send to your clients for the jobs that you guys can get. What this is going to do is it's going to create a video that you guys can put into YouTube and then send your client a link to that video to impress them completely, because none of your other competitors are going to be doing this type of work. I'm going to show you how to do this entire plan step by step, model the house, model the grading, model all the existing trees, model all the existing walls, everything. Then I'm going to show you how we do everything. We do plant sizes, plant lists, everything. Also, I'm going to show you how to do this fly through to where it almost looks like a drone flies over it, and that way it can really illustrate to your clients what you guys are proposing for their yard and show your clients the kind of work that you're capable of. So when you send someone a bid like this, a plan like this, they will be completely impressed. Your profit margins can go up significantly, and what's also going to happen is because they see this kind of quality, they're going to have full trust in you and your ability to install this kind of plan, especially when it comes to anyone else in the industry in their town. So what this plan is also going to do is it's going to be fully to scale. It's also going to show you every bit of materials that are going to be used. So if your client happens to say yes to this, which they will, you will have, with a few clicks of a mouse, a full render of all the material lists, all the sizes, everything you need to price this accordingly with just a few clicks. So let's jump in and get started. Alrighty guys, let's jump in. So this is the program we're using, Realtime Landscape Architect. This is a 2018 version, and this is the one that I'm most familiar with so far. So there's a whole lot that this program can do, and I think for landscape it is pretty much the best available for the money. So this program is about $400, and it's really helped increase my business. The only downfall I've really found to this program is two things. One thing is there's a couple workarounds that we got to do to make certain things happen to look right what I'm after in my landscapes. And number two, it only works on a PC. Personally, I've always been a Mac guy, but I bought this laptop specifically for this program, and I'm glad I did, because I made the money back in the first week. So that should be perfect, and let's just jump right in. So with this project, what we are doing is we have this house, and let me show you. These are pictures I took with the drone. That's the house. These people want an entirely new backyard. You can see they're redoing their driveway currently, and all of this is trash. Let me show you this other angle. So this is the yard. Let's just zoom, make it bigger so we can see here. This is the yard. These people made me a list, and I'll show you the list here in a second, but they wanted to keep these 4 trees, and they wanted to keep this crusher fine walkway, and obviously the driveway stays, and this brick walkway is here to stay as well. So what we're going to do in this video is model this entire house, and it'll do a really good job at modeling it. So I'm going to use these pictures to go back and forth and show you guys how we're going to model this thing from start to finish. So first off, I used my drone to get an image like this, which can greatly help when I'm mapping out the house. You would always want a top-down image, or you want measurements. Either one will be fine. And if you don't have a drone, no worries. What you can do is usually use just Google Earth pictures, which is great. And I'll kind of show you what we can do from there. So let's jump right in and open this guy. So this is the drone image I'm going to use as a background image to kind of map the house from, and it's really handy to have this that way. So you can pretty much see everything is outlined. It's a pretty dead-on, direct, top-center picture, and it's going to help us out a lot here. So what we can do is we can open our program, Realtime Architect. I'm going through kind of an end of a cold here, so forgive the coughs. What greatly helps with this program is a mouse. If you guys have a mouse, it needs to have a scroll wheel, because the scroll wheel will zoom in and out of this program like you're seeing, And then the right click is kind of a grab tool, so we can, if we're holding down the right click on the mouse, it can pan around this area perfectly. You can see that this has a natural north dictating where things are. So if you really want to get technical, you can orient the property correctly to the north and the south. And when we do real-time walkthroughs, it'll show the shadows correctly and it'll show the sun schedules correctly versus winter, spring, summer, and fall. So let's jump into this. The first thing I would do is we can go to Tools, and we want to import a CAD drawing. You can import Google Maps as well. I'm not familiar with that because I usually use my drone images, so I just pretend it's a CAD drawing. We're going to open that, click Next, then it's going to open all this. I'm going to have to remind myself, hang on, chaos cancel. I'm going to have to remind myself exactly which image this is. Yes, it is in fact this image that's in 5B. So let's open up this one. So Tools, CAD Import, Next, Desktop, 5B or 5.8. There we go. Open. It takes a sec to render. There it is. It shows you the preview. The trick to this is you can't do a JPEG, you can't do a RAW file, you usually can't do screenshots. It has to be a PDF file. So you might have to use a PDF little transition tool to bring it from a normal one to a PDF. We can hit Next. And it's just confirming, Next again, and finish. And what this will do is it'll import it onto our map here. So for better viewing, I'm going to grab that corner and expand it out. And then while I'm on site, you can tell what I did is I make these awful little notes, and I drew out the house and I drew out the measurement. I know that this house is 50 feet wide and total, and I drew out these. This is the sidewalk. If you guys can't tell, we have the elevations from sidewalk to the house here. It's about 2.5 feet. From sidewalk to the middle of the house here, it's about 1.5 feet, and then from here, it's about 1 foot of rise. The driveway only has about 6 inches of rise, so that'll help me modeling this place as well too, because that'll make a big difference when we do the model and try and make things look realistic. So let's jump out of there. So if you don't know this measurement or this measurement, to scale this drawing, it's real easy. What you can do is go to an app that's called Planimeter. This Planimeter app I have on my iPhone, and you can zoom in, you can enter any address, and you can put it in any kind of measurements you'd like and drop a few pins or do square feet or do perimeters, and it'll tell you the measurements pretty much of any house. So now that I know that this house, from zooming in on this place, on this Planimeter app, I know it's 50 feet wide, so I can go back into our program, and there's this little button over here to the right that says resize using known distance. And it gives me a little pin tool. So now we'll just estimate that I click here and that I click about right. We'll zoom in a little more. Also, guys, for us to scroll like this, you can click the middle scroll wheel that you have on your mouse and it grabs this. Anyway, so I'm going to click there, and then it asks for that distance, and we can say it's 50 feet and hit enter, and now it's scaled our drawing to 50 feet. So just to triple check this, I also know that this distance is about 32 feet, so I can go to Plan Detail, Plan, and click on here just to kind of get a measurement. It's about 28, so something's a little off. That's the whole point of this video, is for me to show you guys what we're doing here and how I kind of hit or miss some of these things that, oh, that's why. So I need to, okay, so my drone took a weird image, and this is kind of flowing out a little bit, like this is the, it's not a direct top-down image, is why this is off scale just a hair. So again, I got to click on this, use resize distance, and I got to click here, and then I got to click here, because if I'm counting for the wall to go back in there, I'm going to say that that is 50 feet. Now that bumped up, so let's see where we're at now. from this wall to the end of this wall, that's 30 feet. That's pretty darn close. Let's make sure that this is good here to the house. We're going to roll with that. Let's just triple check and make sure, because I had another measurement just to make sure that this is good. 31 feet from the corner of this house, directly parallel to that curb. Let's measure this. I'm holding down the middle wheel, the middle scroll wheel to grab this picture and scroll down. We can go from this house directly straight. See, 31 feet is going to be right there. So I'm still going to have to go back in here. And I can scale it manually, so I can grab this and just scale it just a little bit. And then we're going to test, we're going to retest. We're going to go from about the corner of that house all the way down. That's 30 feet. Let's see how we are here. If you have an actual plan, an actual site plan, 32 feet, we're almost there. So if you guys have an actual site plan, that this is cake. You can enter exactly what the plan says, whether it says 1 inch equals 8 feet or 1 inch equals 4 feet. You can easily do this. So we're just going to bump this up just a little. And this doesn't have to be exact to scale down by the inch, but if it's down by the foot, we're looking pretty good. So you can see we're now from wall to wall, we're at 32 feet here where we need it. And if I zoom in a little more, we're from corner house down to here, about 30 feet. I think that's pretty darn good. So let's use this image to start mapping out the house. First thing we're going to do is the building. And let me walk you through how we're going to do that first. Here's the building. And this program kind of has, it doesn't have an area or an option for us to bump these insets in. Not that I've figured out, or bump this inset in. So we're going to have to make one layer of this house as a single layer. And then we're going to have to probably make a little top area here and raise that up in elevation and raise a couple other things to make this look correct. And I'll show you how we'll walk you through that. I may make this as one big other unit instead. I'll show you just so it's easier. So what we'll do, we'll go back here, house, and we'll just pretend the house is back here somewhere. And you can kind of just pinpoint these little pins in. You want to make sure they're all perpendicular because this house is perpendicular. And we're going to I'm going to pass this area a little bit, click back here. And just for kicks, I'm going to go, and that's going to be our first layer. And we can go down here into perspective to see what that puts us at. So the reason I did that is because this wall height is different than this wall height. So we can go back to the plan view. You can see why this program is nice because we utilize this plan view and we make it kind of work for us. Anyways, we're going to start here. I'm going to go, let's say back here, all the way across to here, to here, to here. This program's really smart because it knows exactly where things are going to be perfectly in line, perfectly perpendicular. And see, this house doesn't look like the house we're after yet, but that's okay, it's a start. We can hold down the shift key and select another object, and now both of these are selected. And from there, we can edit things. So first off, you're going to want to get rid of this corner trim on all of those. The roofs here, we live in the desert, so they're not pitched. So the elevation on these, or the pitch on these roofs is going to become 0. And then we're going to go up here. We don't have siding here where we're at. We have actual stucco, and we can pick a color. We'll just choose a random color like that to kind of make it worth. And you can already see the house is already beginning to look a lot more like the house we have. If we click on this, I made this area a little too far this way, so I can scroll down here and hit edit points and select all these. And this allows me to bump these in just a little bit. Now, that's where I want it. So if you guys ever need to adjust multiple things, you can adjust all those little pins at one point. So we can, if we hit edit points, by the way, the program won't let us do anything else until you unclick this edit points tab. Okay, so we can see from our picture, let's zoom in, that this is much taller than this one. So let's roll with this. I'm going to say that this is about 11, 12 feet, and this is going to be about 15. So we can go back in here and wall height. Let's say this one's 15, hit enter. That bumped it up. This side, we're going to say 12 feet. See, now it's already starting to look like that house more and more and more. So to save myself time, I'm going to zoom in here. You can do this in the plan view or the perspective view. We're going to make a little house right here. Dink, 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 and dink. So that we're going to do all the same things. Reduce the pitch, take off the corners, change the stucco to this, I think we did, this 104. Yep. And now we're going to reduce the wall height here to be about 2 feet. But we can crank up the elevation and do it just like so. That way, it's close to this picture. And you can see we're kind of close to this. That's what we're building right there. So let's just jump out of there. You can see it's probably a little less than that. We're going to just bump it down a little. And that's getting there. So let's see. Okay, so the next way we're going to do this is I'm going to have to build a little inset up here and then another one on top. And then we're pretty much going to be done at that point, besides adding some columns and some details. So let me see. So it's from the corner over there. Okay. I'm going to do this one from the plan view to get a little more exact. We're going to draw a house that's basically from here to, it looks about 5 feet, right there, and then to there. So this house is going to be, boom, just like that. You can't edit it very well from here, so we're going to jump into perspective, and you can't see it. So first of all, I'm going to scroll down here and raise this elevation. Let's take off these trim corners. Let's make the stucco match. And there's sometimes, I'm sure with some of the stuff there's going to be better ways to do it, guys, but this is the way I'm familiar with, and it's the way that's worked for me. So you can see we have that now. I'm actually going to take this bigger piece, copy, paste, and I'm going to paste it right on top of that. And what we're going to do is actually make this about 4 feet high and then bump up the elevation to where now it's starting to look like that house. I may have to adjust things once we kind of start getting picky, but you can see how now it's starting to really look like that. We can take this, I'm going to copy this and paste it. I'm going to just drop it right here and look at it from the overview plan. Zoom in, edit points. I'm going to edit these 2 points and shrink them down because those columns look like they're about, I don't know, about a foot or so by a foot or so. And you can see it's off a little bit, so I'll take this and bump it out. If you can't get it perfect, zoom in, because when you zoom in, this program will allow you to actually make it perfectly square. Part of me believes that this is not a perfect square, so I'm just going to delete it. Let's delete these. Okay. Instead, let's do a house, and let's load a shape, and we can do an actual square. Let's zoom out. and actually shrink that square down. To see the measurements, I'm going to hit edit points. So that way I know, yeah, we're about 1'11", so that's perfect. Let's do perspective view. The thing looks hideous as it is, so we're going to take off the corner, change the stucco back, and bring the roof pitch down to 0. So this we can drop right there, raise the elevation up, and we have a pillar. We can zoom in and slowly migrate this corner out. You can see it's off by a hair. If you want to check how accurate these things are, we can do a walkthrough and just see what the walkthrough looks like, because it'll start to show shadows and show us how good things really are looking. You can hold the right click button on the wheel on the mouse to walk forward and kind of steer with the mouse. So far that's looking pretty good. We can zoom in on the plan and that'll show us that I need to bump this in just a hair. And that's going to be pretty close. So if I'm looking back at this picture, we have 3 columns, and I'm just not even going to add this other column. We'll just add these 3, and then that will be that. So I'm going to copy and paste this. I'm going to put it halfway through, copy paste, and I'm going to drop this right here. So those are all at the same height now. So now we have pillars, which works out really well. I'm not going to worry about getting this down because we're only going to see from here typically, and it's going to look fine. So at this point, if you want, we can get more detailed and grab this, copy and paste it, throw it out here. I might do this on the plan because you can see on this house, there's a little bump out right here, and we're going to draw that bump out. So I'm going to just barely drop that there, scroll down, edit these points. I'll select these and drag them all the way out to there. And let's just double check on the picture. Yeah, it looks like it goes to the corner of the house. That should be fine. Back to perspective view. You can see I don't like the roof material on that, so I'm going to just change that to being, let's see. A lot of this, by the way, guys, is trial and error. Metal hatch patterns we can do, let's just do color washes. We can just do kind of a light tan color wash, something that kind of matches and blends in. I'm going to do that to this main, oh, see, I can't click on anything else because I got to unedit those points. So this roof material, I'm going to actually change to be the same as color wash, scroll down. There we go. That way, that looks a little more realistic, a little more clean, and we pretty much have the base of this house modeled. So let's start with the garage doors. You can see from the picture, it's just 2 big old, kind of old school red garage doors, and those are going to just be real simple. So let's just go to door here, then we can click up here, the model, garage, and we'll pick a door that looks most similar to those doors. There's no windows, it's just made of wood. Let's just view to see if we can find a simple, basic single garage door. See, most of these it's looking like have hold on. All right, of course, when I go to create this for you, um, a package comes in and the package needs me to sign. So I had to go out to the mailman and sign real quick. Anyways, let's just choose a garage door. If it has windows, then it's okay. Okay, so just because this one's red and it's attracting my eye, I'm going to choose that one. And we're just going to drop this on there. Bump. Actually, pretty accurate. So before I copy this, I'm going to edit this. You can see it has white trim. We can go here, edit materials, and we can scroll. That's not a color. We're looking for something white. There's the white. We can double click on that and actually just change it to something kind of more red or dark brown. We'll just do this wood. Then okay. So you can see the whole thing went dark. I'm going to copy and paste and just drag this one over. And let's see if it looks somewhere like this. A little less space. This actually looks more like so. Okay, so that's in there now. Now, we have to model this window up here. It's just a dual pane window. And we're going to drop down here, add a window in, select a window that looks very similar. We can scroll up. They pretty much have a window that will find its way to look like whatever we would prefer. If not, we can make it. See, this window has two, so we're going to do that. And we'll drop it right there. Let's just double check and see how it compares. This window looks a little taller and it's in line right here with the garage door. So we can adjust the height of it, crank that up a little bit, and the width might be a little wider too. And then we can remove the elevation just up to where it's in line with that garage door. So there, that's pretty much good. Now let's look at the upstairs windows, 1, 2. They have pretty much a similar window. I'm just going to make that window the same since it's easier. Copy, paste, and we can drag this. Actually, maybe I can't. Let's go to window and try and drop this up there. That's how we had to do it. Then the elevation, we're going to have to knock that down. I'm going to have to do another window and add that up there and drop that down as well. So now let's see if that somewhat looks right. It does, except those are both much wider windows. And this one we'll have to drop, and we can hold down shift and select both these windows and change the width to be pretty good. And I might change the height a little too and drop them down. There. That way those look good. That way from the street, and this, it looks pretty good compared to this house. These doors look a little more burgundy, so I think we should select this, hold shift and select this one, edit materials, and we're going to see if we can get a little bit more of a burgundy color wash. No, we could do solid fill. This rust color might be more accurate. Oh no. You can tell that we just kind of do some trial and error till we get it right. Solid colors, nope, stone. All right, see, that is where we come into problems that we can absolutely fix. So let's see, we can go to, let's do deck and fence. I can scroll down. I'm gonna vote, we'll try this one even though it might be a little brown. No, doesn't look too bad. I'll just leave that on there for now. The reason being is the homeowner will get the point and that'll be fine, honestly. So let's do the front door. The front door, by the way, let's see, I think I have a picture of the front door. Nope. We'll zoom in here. We can see the front door is a wooden door. It's going to be kind of a dark color, and we can go from here and kind of change this to match. So let's open this. We're going to slap a door in there, but first we're going to make it an entry door. This wood one actually looks almost perfect. We're going to slide it over. There. I'm going to edit the materials. This one's also kind of a darker composition, deck and fence. We'll change it to this wood color. And that way, oh, that looks awful. We'll just try this one actually. Now we can edit these materials. I don't want to get this gray. I want to change this. We can maybe mark it as a wood and hit OK. That looks pretty good. Let's change this. It doesn't have a white frame. We're going to want to change the white frame to where it's matching wood. Now we have the door in there. I'm going to hit down the width a little bit on this, just so it matches in there, and the height just a hair. That way, looks pretty good. There's another window in there. We're going to want to do that window. So instead, I'm just going to copy and paste this and just drag a window down there. A little more over. Let's take a look at our picture. Looks like a similar window, a little bit longer in height, but a little bit lower. That's that. We'll leave that there. Now, guys, you can start to see when we hit walkthrough, it's going to show us that we're starting to look like that house. It's starting to get there. It's starting to look pretty good. Alrighty, so now I just realized that let's see, I'm missing kind of a taller piece that's back here, just so everything looks right. So I'm going to grab this, copy, paste. I'll scroll back here. I'll scroll down and edit these points. I'll scroll to get these and push this back. I'll probably bump this out over here, and I'll straighten it out, and we will actually raise the elevation on it. All right, and then we'll increase the wall height, so at least it looks a little bit more proportionate when you see it from the street. So we'll unedit these points, click somewhere else. All right, let's work. We pretty much got this whole half of the house done. Now we're going to have to work on grabbing these windows. You'll see in our little picture here that it's a dual pane window here, very similar to here. So I'm going to grab this, copy and paste it over to there, and we'll add a little one on top. Copy, paste. I should be able to drag this over. Oh, it's not letting me. We can delete it, and we'll just go to window. It already remembers the window that we had. We'll paste that on there. We should increase the width, the hair, because that window is a little wider. Definitely increasing the height. And we can scroll in and kind of center on, just because might help. Then we can reduce the elevation a little, because on the picture it looks like the window is probably about 2 feet up. We'll do 2 feet 2 inches. We'll copy paste, and then we'll pull this one just aside to match, so that way they're equidistant. They have a little space in between them, just like in the picture. And I might just space this one out just a hair more. just like that. So I'm gonna hold down Shift, copy or select both of those, copy paste, and I'm gonna pull those to be in the same area. And then I'm gonna change just the window type to be something like so. And we can move this down so the width is in fact the same-ish. Yep. We'll increase the elevation so it goes up here. See, and we're already running into a different problem. Let's see why. It looks like, yeah, let's see. So anyways, we'll just adjust the height down. So the windows are about like that. Elevation will bump almost all the way up there. The problem is this bar actually needs to get raised. I have to scroll down and increase the elevation, bring it up a bit. So if this is at 9'6", then we got to make this one 9'6" as well. There, now that's going to all match. Now we have room for these two windows to get bumped up to where they kind of need to be. We'll increase the height a little bit. Oh no, sorry, that's not that. We'll increase the elevation, that way the whole window itself rises. Drop it right there. This window has to go above there, and then we can select this window, hold down Shift, select them both, and we'll reduce the height on these guys. There. Might select all these and make the width all one and the same. Good, looking pretty good. So let's see what we're working with. Is this the right one? Nope. Not the right one. Nope. Here it is. So if we zoom in, we can see it's basically the same scenario with those two windows as it is over here. So we shall minimize this and minimize this, go back into our program, and all those windows are selected. I'm going to copy and paste and pull them all over here. It's not working like I would like, but we'll take it anyway. I'm just going to delete that guy. We'll select this guy, copy paste, and bring him on board over here. Yep. I have some additional pictures on my phone that I'll kind of reference just to make sure that things match up. But this window, scoot over just a hair. Then this window, copy paste. Nope, does not want to do that, so. Nope, we'll just add another window. Sometimes there's little glitches on this machine. Okay, so we can make sure this is 4'3" and 1'9", and this one will do 4,3, enter. I don't know. Oh, 4'3", 1'9". Got it. Elevation will raise that guy up. Okay. So we're going to select these, pull them over because there is a lot more space over here. So things are pretty much modeled at this point, and you can see. Now, always remember to save your work every so often. Desktop, yes, replace. Okay, so I'm holding down the right clicker on my mouse, and that allows me to pan through like this. Again, the wheel zooms in and out. The left clicker will select things, and if I go to select this window and it doesn't select, you just click in the same spot again. It's smart enough to know that if you click in the same spot twice, it'll select everything that's underneath that. So sometimes, as you'll see as I move through, there's going to be times where I'll have to click 4 or 5 times in the same spot just to make it happen. So let's start building out the rest of the functions of kind of the side yard and the wall and all that. So let's build it in plan view over here. Again, I'm clicking on the button on my mouse. If you're doing this with a trackpad, it's going to be a lot more work and a lot more effort. So we'll go to retaining wall. I know there's different walls and different things in here, but I always use retaining walls. My drone picture is a little off somehow, so I'm going to start the wall right here on the edge, and we'll go here, and then I will so you can see it starts another pin, but in place, I'll put my mouse there and just right click, and that way it created a wall. When you right click when you're creating something like a wall or a patio or something, it finishes whatever you're currently doing. Alrighty, so I'm going to move this just a touch back, and you can see we have some issues with these windows where I got to pull it back here. Click this. We got to make sure the width is all lined up with these. See, there's where I clicked about 5 times. Okay, so that's where we're at. I'm going to edit all the walls together, so we'll go through plan. I'm going to continue this wall. I'm not going to do this fence just yet. Retaining wall. Click. Click. So I'm going to pretend and kind of just end it back here. I'll right click and that put it into an end mode instead of me just continuing on to make the wall. Now see, by default, when I select this retaining wall, there's this little white thing here that says curve type. And that, when I made it a curve instead of an angle. So let me select this wall, and you can scroll down, click edit points, and you just have to move this little one right here in the shape of this L, and we can change this to do a 90 degree, and boom, just like that, we changed it from being a curved wall to an angular wall. And then there's other options here that I'll show as we move on. But you can tell that this wall isn't really squared. We'll have to grab this and actually move it back to where it is fully square with the grid. I'm going to unedit points and scoot this back a little so it's in line with this wall. Good. Now we're in line. Let's put in a fence here. Right click. Now that fence is in. Okay. Because when we revert back to this picture, this program isn't going to be able to do a good job of modeling that fence. Gates that have arches and gates that have like wood paneling on them, this program doesn't have a lot of, so you kind of have to make do, and we're going to do the best we can out of that. So here's our wall. We're going to click on this wall, hold shift, click on this wall. Now we're going to change our wall material. It looked like it was just a stucco color again, so we're going to go through here. We don't have stucco colors, so we have to do a color wash. We'll scroll through here and eventually come to something that's pretty close. We could do better than that. better than that. We'll have to see what it looks like through a real time. Doesn't look bad. So we'll also edit the cap type. Again, we'll do a color wash. We'll do something very similar than what we did do right there. So there's a wall. We'll just leave the wall at that. The fence I'll select. We're going to make the fence, let's see, post spacing. We're going to space out the post a little more. That way it's just 2 posts on each side and we can eliminate that ugly post. You can see that the fence pickets are on the opposite side of the fence. So we're going to switch sides over here. Boom, and that bumped it out into the front. We want to get this wood more of a burgundy color. No, that's not going to do it. Let's go over here. And we'll choose this one. No. This guy. Yep, that's pretty good. Let's see if there's a better style. Probably this one. We might be able to do better. Yeah, I'm going to just roll with that. Okay. Now we're going to reduce the height of this board. This thing's sitting at 7 feet tall, so we're going to bump it down probably to 5 foot 8. Now the post, that's sitting at 8 feet tall, so we're going to bump it down too. Oh, no. See, that's where a lot of this is just trial and error, and eventually you kind of get a hang for it. So that looks pretty good. Then we're going to do the post height. We'll swipe that down, right, like so. So there's our gate. That way it looks pretty close to what they had. That's going to put us in the right direction. Looking at this, I think the wall is a little off, so I'm going to select this, scroll down, edit points. I can grab, if I just want to edit this point and this point, I can grab in the middle of them and scoot it on over. That looks a little more accurate, so that'll be more towards scale. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to unedit this point, grab this wall, copy, paste, and drag this way over here. And we can grab this little rotate tool, rotate it, and it snaps right there. Well, snap right into 90 degrees. And we'll drag this over, drop it there, and we can edit the points to scoot things over from here. So we're going to pull this out right about there. I'm going to zoom in, and we're going to pull this over just a hair so it matches with our plan a little bit better. Now this wall looks super thick, so instead of 1 foot thick, which is a huge wall, I'm going to send it down to 8 inches. This wall looks like just an ugly cinder block wall. I do have some blocks in my favorites that I like to use, and you can add blocks in your favorites, but typically you can just kind of figure out what works, and everything here is pretty intuitive. We'll just kind of leave it at that. This wall looks like it's a short wall, so we're going to bump it down. Instead of 5, I'm going to say 3. That way that's just there. Great. So again, let's save our work. Save as. Great. So now everything, actually this wall looks pretty dark. Let's change this. Let's use a lighter one. No. What I really need to do is save the lighter brick that I commonly use because I use it a lot. Maybe it's that one. Nope. Okay, for now we'll just leave this. Alrighty, now let's make a driveway while we're at it. Oh, actually, before we make a driveway, there's something crucial that I need to share with you guys. So, you have the ability to add different layers in here. and that gives you the ability to draw over things or under things, which really helps. So I don't want to mess with any of this stuff yet, so I'm going to lock this layer. I'm going to add another layer, and that way we can kind of start fresh here and see what we can do. And I'm going to label this layer elevations. Great. So this is what I was referring to back is I made these ghetto notes where we have the elevation shot here. So you can see this one's about 2.5, this one's 1.5, 1 foot, and from the driveway it's about a 1/2 foot of rise. So we're going to do that. And this always takes me a little bit of trial and error. This is in the terrain part of it, and we're going to do a slope. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to click over. Actually, see, I already messed up. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to click here, right about here, and right about here. So you can see that raised everything on the slope. Now, right now, this looks like an absolute disaster, but what we're going to do is edit points, and this is where it kind of gets interesting. We can insert points, and I'm going to insert a couple points, and you can pull and push each little respective corner where you need it to go. See, I'm going to just drop some of these points in, and they're all corresponding to each other. So if I move this point, you can see on the left it straightens it out to be perpendicular with the garage. So I'm just going to follow. I know that the sidewalk is level and that the cul-de-sac is level, so we're kind of just following the path of the sidewalk, which makes it much easier. There we go. Now, for instance, I don't want the house to be right here on this awkward slope. So what I'm going to do is I want the whole house on one level plane. So this one, I'm going to bump down the run. And you can see that that's going to pull it all the way back, and see we're bumping the house up to where it's on the same grade. So this one, I'm going to say 2 foot. Just to start out with, we'll say 2.5 since we know it is 2.5. Now this one is 1.5. This guy right here, we're going to bump down the height, and we're going to go down to 1 foot. And then this guy, I'm going to relocate it right there. And this will be just 1 foot. Or no, sorry, this was 6 inches. Now this one, I'm going to bring all the way down to 0. This one will be all the way down to 0. So now we're getting there where you can see there's some height differences in here coming in. I'm going to leave this one at 2.5 since that's kind of next to the other one that I placed at 2.5. And if everything goes correctly, it should work out. And you never really know. Sometimes you might spend upward of a good 30 minutes trying to figure out how to make this work for you. Okay, we got all of that at 2.5 feet. I don't like the fact that, see how this wall is tapering down? It doesn't, let me check my phone, but I don't believe it does that in real life. So, let's check. No, this wall is straight, it goes straight across. So that means this point needs to get shrunken down to where it's all the way like so. And that way, you can see there's still a little piece in here that's kind of missing. So I'm going to insert a point right here, and he's going to be about right there. And we're at 2'6". So that way we have this area pretty much perfectly to grade that quick, which is pretty awesome. Actually, I'm looking at this house. There's something just not right. This one needs to be shrunken just a little, right there. This one, we gotta shrink it in, right like so. Okay, so we're gonna roll with that for now. We can mess with it later, but that will be crucial when we are playing with the retaining wall stuff a little bit later, because they're wanting a slope on that retaining wall, or retaining walls on that slope right here. So, all right. Anyways, now that we have the grade, let's just lock that layer in. We'll lock that, new layer. We'll call this layer the design. First, I'm going to lock that layer, open up this layer 1, because I'm going to add a driveway and a walkway and a couple other things. Okay, building. I usually use a patio for the driveways. You can see we basically just click wherever we would like a patio. You can kind of click and just drag these drops. And now you can see, because of our elevation, the patio didn't do too well on this. So that's the only problem when you're working with elevations on this program, is if we compensate for that and we increase the elevation of the patio, it helps fix it, but then we raise the patio here and it doesn't look right. So what I'm actually going to do is delete that entire object, and instead we're going to go into landscape and we're going to create a region that is exactly to this, because a region will follow this grading. Actually, I'm going to draw this in the plan perspective. I like the plan because I can follow everything perpendicular. I'm just going to bump that right there, there. Okay, so now we have a region, and you can see it curved those points. So I'm going to edit points. I'm actually going to select all of these points and tell it to do straight angles, which fixed this instantly for us. Now we're going to move, if we leave this edge style as normal, it's going to be blurry. Let's see if you can see it. It doesn't show it in this view, maybe in perspective it will. See how it's just blurry? So we're going to want to move that from normal to sharp, and that'll dictate a really sharp edge. So we can go back in here, go into concrete. I usually use concrete 3 just as a basic concrete. And now we have a driveway. Simple as that. Now for the other fun part, we're going to add this walkway. We're going to make it a path. We'll start over, just for kicks, we'll start over here. That'll loop around, and I'll click probably here. And Again, I'll right click over there, and that way the path is done. So what I did is I dropped an anchor here, an anchor in the middle, and an anchor at the other end. And again, we can edit those points. So I'm going to look at this from the plan view, which is a really neat thing about this program. We can select these two and tell it that we want to actually do beveled corners. And okay, so I'll describe the difference. See how when I grab this anchor, the other side corresponds accordingly. So if we make a curve, it curves. If we use this other one, it separates this anchor point from this anchor point, and that way we can move things independently, and the other side doesn't match. So I'm going to use that because I'm going to face this one towards there, and this one I'm going to pull all the way down, and if I do this enough, there we go, you'll see that I've begun to create a walkway that is interpreting the way that I want it. I'll select these two, and this one I do want each side corresponding because it's going to make a better walkway. So if I bend this, it's going to drop right in place where I want it. So you can see we can find a good shape of a walkway pretty easily with a couple clicks. We're basically just drawing over whatever we have in these drone images or these Google Maps images, whatever's easiest, honestly. Alrighty, so we're back over here. We got to go in here. Now, these anchor points are pretty good. Let's focus on these guys. These ones are going to make independent. If you remember, we'll zoom in. This guy we'll throw over here. Sometimes you just got to mess with them just to know which ones are going where. We'll throw this over here. Okay. And a lot of times you got to zoom out so you can understand where everything is just even going. See this one. This one's good, but it's coming out a little too far here. So now I'm going to have to separate these and very slowly just grab this one, pull it down until I see it get where I need it to go. Just a little bit of trial and error, and then we can get a pathway that starts to become pretty good. Okay, I'd say that's close enough for government work. It's a little scooted in right there, but we're going to just work with that later. So we'll change the fill to being concrete, concrete 3, double click, and now that is concrete. Alrighty. Now, I'm going to unselect the edit points. Then, I think we should put in a street, and that way we have a street and a curb. We can go from there. We're going to go into road. We're going to add a road. I'm going to start at one point. Probably click here again, here again, here again, and right click. There's our road. You can see it comes with a sidewalk. We are going to remove the sidewalk, but we're going to click on curb material and say custom. Oh no, hang on. Tricky. There's a bunch of little details that, I'll be honest, we don't always remember. Curb. Trying to think of how to add a curb. We'll add a curb separately. Okay. For the street, I'm going to tone down hang on, let me fiddle around with this a little bit. Nope, I give up. So let's click on this. We're going to edit these points. And that way, I'm going to put this here. I'm going to add a point. See, we're going to slowly contour this line. That way, it's pretty much done when we want it to be, right there. Sometimes you have to grab the line and pull it away just to make sure it's exactly where you're thinking it should be. Okay, we're getting there almost, and drop. So that way, there's a street when we're looking at this through a walkthrough, which is going to be our end result to send someone a video of this, which is going to be really high class. That way we have the street all throughout there, and it's going to work out. So curbing, we're going to add a curb. It just follows this street line ever so gently. You can drop in as many points as you would like. And stop. Right click, and that will create the curb. So we have a curb. I don't want a huge curve, so I'm going to make the width like 6 inches, and the height, instead of 6 inches, we'll do like 2 inches. And I'm going to add a curb over here too. We'll just drop it here and end the curb over here somewhere. Again, we're going to drop it down to 6 inches, and this one about 2 inches. That way, let me scroll over here. When we're looking at this from a perspective, from a walkthrough, we can see that it actually looks like a nice little curb fit in there, and everything looks handy dandy. So we have our sidewalk, we have a curb, we have the median between the curb and the street. They are wanting to keep this walkway here, so I'm going to draw the walkway in. I'll go into the plan view for this and zoom in a little bit. And for this, just because there's a little bit of this line right here is showing where we have our elevations. So just to be safe, I'm going to add a terrain, or I'm going to add a region attached to the house. Come out here, we'll drop a point about here, and a point right there. And you can kind of cheat and go behind this doorway and just click randomly back here, because no one's going to see this walkway, and it doesn't matter in the materials list because it's already there. So edit points, we're going to make this brick, and we got to go scroll through here, find some red brick. We'll just choose this brick for now. And we got some things to edit. So Control Z will undo that. I'm going to make this one a straight corner. This one, I'm actually going to make this independent corner and pull this one straight and this one down so it imitates the way the walkway really is. And I think this one, we're going to do this double. Boom. And pull it in a little. I got to zoom in. Now this one, let's make this one a double too. Just like so. Actually, we're not even going to need this point. Let's just delete that point. And this one is going to go like so. Let's get this down here. And you can see how this starts to really come together. I'm going to make this one a double as well. Scoot this over here and just make sure we're pretty much in line where we need to be. Okay, this brick, if we look at that, it looks okay, but this brick does have a border, so I'm going to click over here, add border. We're going to select the border material. We're going to move into brick, go all the way down. I might select a slightly different one just so it stands out a little more. And we can edit the size and then the width as well. So this is how it's going to go. We want to make sure this width is the width of one brick, which is going to be 2 inches. And just to, you'll see we've got to bump this up to where it matches nicely right there, basically. A little more there. You got to like fiddle around with it just till it all adds up. Now you can see that one looks good and it has a nice clean border around it. It's a little odd, so I might just move to a brick that matches a little bit better. Yeah, that blends in. So now, hey, they have this. Just to get technical, they do have a bench right here. I'm going to unclick out of this. We're going to go to accessories under the landscape tab, and we can go in here and click search bench. And the little bench they have looks like this. So we'll double click and we can drop this here, zoom out, rotate it 90 degrees, let it click in the 90, scoot it over. It's actually smaller than that, so I'm going to shrink it down. And this bench is actually green, so we're going to edit the materials, go through here, we'll click on this green composite, and now we have a green bench where they have a bench. You can see that this bench is slightly cutting into the stucco, so I got to pull it away. There we go. Done. Now to get technical too, I'm going to grab this wall, copy paste, drag it over here, rotate it 90 degrees, bump it up here, that way it's in line. Alrighty, now let's see, we can do some changes with the elevation. Instead of 5 feet tall, we're going to go down here, edit points, and we can click on this point, make sure that point is lower. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that there's something else I can do. Left cut, height. No, I guess that's true. I guess that's pretty much where it's going to be. Oh, I can step the wall. That's what I was looking for. I'm going to insert a point, put it here. I'll see if I can't get that point. Yep, it already did it for me. I'm going to enter another point. That way it shows true to the plan how it does step. I might look at my phone to make sure that that's exact, an exact match. hope this is helpful, you guys. There's 1, 2, 3 drops. Okay, so this one drops down a little bit lower. Okay, this one actually comes out more. Let's undo that. I'm going to pull this guy a little further just to match the wall exactly. We're going to add another point in right here. And that way, let's see if it shows us in this picture. You can see how it drops down pretty aggressive. It straightens out, drops down, straightens out. And we're pretty much making it do that. This point I'm going to make a little taller just so it shows the height a little bit better. Now there's a utility here, so I'm going to click into accessory and we can search power, I believe. No. Utility. No. AC. No. Let's say cover. Okay. Anyways, we will try just going through furniture. No. Mailboxes. Other. It'll be an other for sure. So we can kind of make do. I'm going to just use this trash can most likely. Drop this in. Well, actually no. We could find, actually this will probably be better. We'll use this guy because it looks closer to the utility. So I'm going to change the elevation of this. We're actually going to go height. We're going to change the height down. See how it's scaled evenly? What we want to do is get it to the width we want. Uncheck this box scale. That's not right. Let's see. And then we're going to want to reduce the height way down. There we go. We could do better than that. Broad. Nope. Structures. Topiary. Let's see. We'll just scroll through all. Sometimes this is little details that take the longest, but sometimes make a pretty big impact. So we're going to go through here and find something that looks like a utility that we can make happen. Almost. You can see they have pretty much everything you can imagine in here. And you have to get creative with these things. Oh. No. I'll know it when I see it. Maybe I won't. We're going through here. It's one of those little utilities that houses just electrical cables. Okay, we'll try and do an electric. We'll try and do this. We'll shrink it down. And then we'll unscale, yep, height, make it a little taller. I may even drop it in there a little bit just to show. And then we'll change the colors. It is kind of a green color. Dull green metal, that's the one. Okay, so we have our utility in. Now you can see we can scroll through all this. We pretty much have the whole house modeled, the whole walkway modeled, everything is modeled. If we want to, what I normally do is I click on this walkthrough and I adjust some of the settings in here, these environment settings. You can do different moon styles, different times of the day, and it shows you when sunset is. So let's say 9 a.m. Let's just, well, first let's do this, environment settings. The skyline, you can see how there's mountains and waterfalls and all that bugs me. I usually just take, you can do different ones. You can do city skylines. You can do all kinds of different things, but I prefer just to remove the skyline in general so it's clean, just because the skyline tends to confuse people in my opinion. The season, I usually leave it on summer, but if someone wants to see it winter, spring, summer, fall, they can. And then there's other things that can just walk speed, run speed. The wind, sound, you'll see there's chimes and things in here. So I usually leave that. The only thing I do is I take down the amount of wildlife to none, because if you don't, then you'll have butterflies. And I'm not joking, butterflies just jumping all over your screen. Okay, so this is what 9 o'clock looks like. I'll walk up to it a little bit. I'm holding down the right key on the mouse. So far, you can tell that's about 9 in the morning. So we're going to do walkthrough again. We'll make it, oh, wrong button. Environment settings. We're going to go at 6 p.m. and you can see the skyline changed. Let's hit OK. Now you can see it totally changed. What's cool is you can see how the sun were to hit this house, because we made this house north facing, so this whole side over here gets west facing sun. I will zoom in right here and we're going to change the time. We'll even change it down to like 8 p.m. and that way you can see the difference. So if you add landscape lights in this, it's going to show in here, and that's something we're going to do. Okay, so I'm going to go back into these layers. This layer number 1 that has the whole house and everything on it, I'm just going to lock that in place because we don't need to do that. And now we're going to design on design number 1, and that's where we're at. Okay. Actually, I forgot to keep the trees that he wanted. So I'm going to lock this, open up layer 1, and we're in layer 1 now. So we have some trees, and we're going to go into landscape for trees. We're going to go into this plant and click on this tree button. I don't like these high res ones or ultra res or the models. What I do like is the pictures. I think they look a little more realistic. They look a little better. You can make a favorites tab, which you'll see houses a lot of my favorites, which are just go-tos from my region. And we can just throw a white ash in there. And I might go into plan view actually, because it's going to show it more exact like this. So obviously in plan view, this tree is taking up everything and you can't see what's underneath it. So you can adjust the look of the symbol from here. Because this is an existing tree, I might do it in a CAD type style, and we do it something kind of, let's see what would be a good tree one. Let's try this guy. It might be a little bold. Yep, too bold. So I like this one for a tree. So we have one tree that's right here. We'll zoom in and we can move it right where you see that shadow forecast. Copy, paste. One tree goes, let's take a look, kind of right there. Copy, paste. There's 4 trees in total. One tree goes right about here, right in line, and right there. Right there. And copy paste. And this other tree is kind of way back here. Okay, so if we go into perspective, you can see now it's going to show us how those trees look. And just to see the house better, I might choose a tree that's actually a little bit better than that, like a little more less foliage on it. That way we can see the house. Or I will make those trees larger just so we can see those trees. We'll hold down Shift and select all these trees. And we can increase the height and the size of them by doing this. Let's see if I can choose something that's a little more see-through. That way it's not just totally disturbing this landscape plan. You can see that these trees have a ton of options, and sometimes I just choose a tree variety that looks similar to what would be in real life. Since this is an existing tree, I'm going to take it off the plant legend, and it's not going to be labeled, so it doesn't matter if it is the incorrect tree. What matters is if it actually looks most realistic compared to what they do have. These are little things that take the longest, I think. Those actually look very, very realistic. I might taper down their age just a hair. And let's look at our picture. You can see they're somewhat large trees, so I might actually crank those back up. But that way they can tell this is exactly what they should look like. Okay, just so I check, those are pretty much in the right spot. We're good to design now. So I'm going to go on this layer. I'm going to lock this layer down so we don't disturb it again. Open up the design layer, and we're ready to rock and roll. So what I normally do, let's go back into plan view. Oh, actually I should unlock this other layer, lock this. So I should select all these trees again. You can make sure these trees are all 4 selected if they all show this legend. If you misstep on one, this legend will become blank. So I don't like that I can't see in here, so I'm going to change the symbol to, you could do something, let's see, let's do something vibrant, something that's more of an outline. Oh, maybe that's not it. Let's see. Well, maybe we will do a CAD just to be safe. There. Now, so those aren't completely overbearing, I'm going to make the transparency way far up, just like so, and that way it's not messing with anything else. So here's the fun part. We can lock this one down, or before we do, we can click on this design, and, well, let me show you one other thing really quick. Before I delete this, I want to make sure that I make this as realistic as we can, and that might involve bumping this back a little, adding a point, sometimes you got to get in the plan view to get the nitty-gritty little details. Now let's select this, and we can make this just a little corner. Pump this wall a little back. And I might make this sidewalk just continue a little further, just so it looks a little more realistic. And you'll see why a little bit later, why I'm doing that on the rendering. Okay, that's in. I'll just add a little gravel fill in here. Dink, 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 dink. All those points I want to be squared off. And we can go in my favorites gravel, and I just have a basic gravel. We can tone down the size. That way, that's pretty much that. So the fun part of this is we can click on our picture, hit delete, and now we have our landscape plan, which is really, really special, ready to rock and roll, good to go. And I'm going to click also, I'm going to lock this layer down, go into elevations. I'm going to click on our elevations and edit the line style, and I'm going to say no line, and that's going to remove this entire line from the plan view. See? That way it's nice and clean. So this is what we're working with. So this is going to be a good plan that you can print and then draw. You can hand draw based on this. You can print it out kind of like so, and then draw whatever designs you think would look best on this. Alrighty, so I wanted to show you guys where I've become right here. So I built this wall and this walkway, and I realized that this wasn't recording. So I'm going to leave this wall and this walkway because I kind of perfected these curves a little bit. But anyways, I'll go through and kind of remake a wall and remake a walkway so you can understand how I did so. What I did normally is I can go in this, we'll say landscape area, and I made like a region, and under region you can hit shape options and load a shape. And what I did is loaded a perfect circle, and I put this circle kind of where I wanted it, and I shrunk it down to size, and that way you can place it in here. Let me zoom in and more or less kind of get a ballpark of this size. Well, let's just make it a little bigger for fun and drop it in. So you can see I put a circle here and I put a circle here, kind of where I wanted these walls to be, and I mimicked these walls to be around them. I'll drop a circle here and I'll drop a circle here too, and we'll make a whole new wall. So actually we'll make a wall somewhere else, a little different area. Let me undo this, drag this over. Just so I'm not in the way, we'll make a wall down here. Bingo. So I'll go under perspective view, and you can see how nice this wall started to look. I mean, it's a pretty neat wall. We made it terrace. It stepped down from here, stepped down from here, and it just kind of is a nice little entryway for his walkway. So let's get started with this. So I'll just start in the plan view, and we know that this wall is going to kind of contour around these two curves. This is, let me see if I can find it. This is basically the shape that I came up with on the plan, because I wanted this to be the highlight instead of the house, which is one of the things they asked for. So you can see in here, that's why I created that plan, that thing that we did. So I created this, I made this to where it has these curves because I thought it would be a good layout, and it create a nice little entryway here for some plantings as well. We'll minimize this, and we'll go back into our Landscape Architect program, and we can go back to building and retaining wall. It's always going to be retaining walls. I'm going to say We'll probably start here. I'll drop one pin here. We can curve that to where it's probably about here. I'll drop a pin here. I'll drop a pin here. And I'll drop a pin about here. And for good measure, maybe about halfway, and then about here. And right click, and now that wall's done. So from here we'll go into perspective. This is how the wall's default going to come out. So we're obviously going to want to go down. We're going to change the height. Instead of 5 foot, let's make it 1 foot. Hit enter. Now it's a 1 foot high wall. To make the wall look nicer, we can go to this cap material and we can make it have a rough cut, which I like. The height is okay, it's about 2 inches, which is standard, and then we can do the overhang. So I'm going to zoom in. When we go into overhang, if I up this, you can see it goes to being a nice overhang on that wall. You can see it there. And that is what we're after, because that's going to look much nicer. For the material, I usually go down here into Eldorado stone, and we'll just pick a stacked stone. It's going to be similar to that. And that way that wall's pretty much looking good. It's a little thick. This is 12 inches wide. So the typical wall is going to be 6 inches if it's small, or 8 inches if it's big. I'll go down to 6. That way it looks nice. You can see the cap material is just a concrete. I might move that to a little bit more of a decorative concrete. And that way kind of we have these walls mimicked. And we already have a wall that looks pretty darn good. Let's go back into plan view and we'll edit the shape of this wall. We'll click on this wall. See, that's the greenery. We'll click on this wall, go down here, edit points, and I'm going to select all of these points and make them all have these expandable corners. That way these pop into here ever so gently. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit more. And you can see this angle's a little off. We can kind of correct that a little bit. Still a little bit off. So this one will have to pull a little more. And that's a pretty good angled wall right there. So I'm going to unedit these, select this, delete, select this, delete. Go back into perspective view, and we can click the right finger on the mouse to allow us to pan through like this. For an example, if you're on a slope kind of like this, if you want the wall stepped or if you want the wall angled in any way, we can click on this wall, click again to get on the wall, go down and edit these points, and then let's say we wanted the wall taller on this right side. So I can select these 2 points and we can actually adjust the height of those 2 points. Instead of 1 foot, we'll crank those up, let's say, to 2 feet. And this one will probably taper it down to match. So we'll say 1 foot, 6 inches. So now you have a wall that actually tapers all the way through. And looks pretty cool, and it might come in handy for certain things you're trying to design or certain things that you're trying to accomplish within your design based on hillsides or designs. Let's unedit these points. And if you want these walls to come down in steps, because sometimes it makes more sense based on the material you're using and a whole lot less cutting to make that happen, we can click this button that says stepped. And it automatically stepped it down for us. You can see. So it knew that there was a pretty big height change here, and it dropped it down. And it knew that there was a pretty big height difference here, and it dropped it down. If you want to edit those step points, you can actually put in points and make your own very big adjustments in height, and then kind of make it, it'll autocorrect exactly where you are raising and lowering each height. So that's how you're going to come up with a wall that's just like that. And this one came out pretty darn cool. So hate to see this wall go, but we're going to delete it because we already have a decent wall over here. And you can see this wall Since there's not much slope over here, I have this ending almost into the turf, or almost into the grade that we're at, and it loops around here. It's about midway, enough to retain those trees nicely. And then over here we have more of a grade, so I bumped up the height of the wall, and that's also why we have another step up here. So that's going to help us a lot, and I have this one actually ending in the grade, which can look nice within landscapes too. So let's look over here at this walkway. Since I already made this walkway and I didn't realize the record button wasn't on, I'll show you how I did that. Again, if we were to make usually I use this patio button on most plans, but since this one is on a slope, I'm unable to do so. For instance, if I make a patio here, I'll just draw out kind of a quick oblong square. You can see that the slope messes with this. So even if I raise the grade of this patio, or the elevation of this patio, it's flat, but now down here it's off, you know, if I make it to where it's just not going to work because it's above the sidewalk over here, it's just a nightmare. So if I want something to follow that grade of that slope, I actually go into landscape and I create a region or a path, either one. This one was a region that I did, and what we can do is we just go region, and I dropped in some points. Just for instance, I'll do point, point. I'll just kind of make it kind of mimic a neat little shape. That way you can see I'll mimic the shape of this patio, and we can go from there. As soon as I click one dot to the other one connecting, it knows that that's finished, and we can choose, you know, a region within, first of all, a region within these landscape areas is going to automatically assume that it's a lawn or other items, but we can go in here and click concrete. I just did a concrete border, or a concrete, let's say, and you can see the lines are fuzzy, so we're going to go move that to a sharp line. We're going to edit these points to where, let's edit both of these at once. So these ones will mimic the shape of the sidewalk, and these ones I have curving in. We'll make these kind of curve inward. Now, let's select these 4 points. I want these ones to be just equidistant, just like this. That one looks good. This one might change and bend just a hair, so it's looking nice. This one will move up. You can see you can drag and pull these whichever way you want as well. So, just for instance, I'm playing with this just to show you what this looks like and how these work. So you can see we have a pretty neat little walkway here. I might bump this one in just so it looks like a walkway. In the plan view, if you're doing this by plan, you can come in and go to plan detail and actually measure out how long this is. So that's 3 foot 4 inches. So you can see how that works if you need to do something specific to measurements. So let's click on this again. I bordered this with matching brick, so it matched a little better. We can edit the border by going down here and clicking add border, and you can see what it does. Obviously this border doesn't look right because one brick is bigger than the other, but you can change that based on the size. See, if I wanted it 2 bricks thick, I can make it a good measurement to where it's 2 bricks, or if I want it 1 brick thick, we'll increase the size, and we can go from there. First of all, I would tell you to increase the width or decrease the width to be whatever width you would like it to be. We'll just say, for instance, it's a 4-inch width. And then based on that, you can reduce the size of the brick to make it match right about there. Maybe a little one step up. So now when you zoom in, you can see, there's a little piece of brick there, so I'm going to increase the size, and that'll bump it out right there. That way this has a nice little border, and that's how you can make a walkway. And what's nice is this isn't much on a grade, but if I move this over, boom, it automatically knows within this program to follow that crazy grade. You can see it just slope down. And that's how I made this walkway right here. Let's delete that, and now we can continue with our real design going forward. So first of all, let's zoom out of here open this guy up and we'll see. Okay, so I have wall, I have the existing trees, I have 3 plants below here, and I have a walkway that contours this really nice to bring you from the front yard walk area over to the side yard if they want to get their trash and other things out of there. So first, let's add in this walkway. I think that would be a fun thing to start with next. Actually, I need to add this other part of the walkway too. So the idea is, let's go in here and we can put in, let's see, I think it's what I'm looking for. Is accessory, we can search car. Let's see, road, accessory, vehicles. Okay, let's just throw in a vehicle right about here. We'll turn it. And the idea was, if you someone parks a car here, they can get out of their car and use this walkway up to the front, or get out and use it to the back. Let's just say they have a party and they have a couple people park here. You can see how this starts to play out nicely, how someone can park and there's going to be a walkway here for them. So that was kind of the idea with the plan, and that's why we're going to continue with this. To be exact, let's go in the plan detail. To make it easier, I'm going to copy this, paste it, because it already has a lot of the attributes that I'm wanting. And you can see it already almost flows into that nicely. So let's bring this over here. We'll edit these points so they match up perfectly with this. It's a lot of trial and error, but eventually you get it where it's kind of needing to be. That's all we can really ask for. You can see this looks like more or less one seamless transitional curve. Let's unedit this and select this. We'll hold down Shift to select both, and we'll do that exact same thing. We will add a border, change the border to be brick. Let's go find a red brick that matches nicely. I believe it was this one that I used, and you can see that looks horrific. So instead, let's change down the width, and we'll change down this. So I'm curious right now why it's not showing brick on each side. This is very odd. Oh, I think I know why. I think because this was a path. Because it was a path, we only have these on both sides. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to delete these paths. That's too bad. I would rather have the border. Or we could try something a little different. I'll try rotating this. Yep, instead of doing completely new, it's still going to be kind of a lot of work, but I'm going to border this. There we go. Okay. Let's see if this does what I want it to do. Let's go to the plan view just to be a little more accurate about it. We'll bump this out. We'll tour this back in. That way it's at least more or less kind of congruent with the rest of the design. Let me see what happens if okay. Let's see what that looks like. Just can't say that still is looking very good. So instead, I'm going to delete this, click on this, delete that, and we're going to start fresh. We're going to start from the plan here. We'll go to landscape, region, bump here, bump here, bump here, here, and we'll connect the two, and then we're going to edit these points. I'm going to select all of them to be their own individually pulled items, and that way we can merge these with the curve that we have going on everywhere. Shouldn't take too long. We can actually just change everything up. I'm going to contour this a little bit different here, here. We're just trying to make this match up. You can see it's slowly starting to look a little better, a little better, a little better. We're going to do concrete. And I believe, did we do that concrete? Yeah, just for now, we'll leave it there. We'll add a border. We'll make this sharp. We'll add a border. Let's make it to the brick we like that matches. And there's no right or wrong way to really do this, but just trial and error until we get there is exactly what we need to do. Width, let's see first off what this width is. We did 4 inches and 4 foot 10 inches. So we know that we can do 4 foot 10 inches. And 4 inches. There we go. Matching. If we zoom out, see something doesn't look right, so we can move this over. Let's go into plan and plan detail and just see how wide this is, because to me it looks pretty wide. It's 8 feet wide-ish. Or this way, in real life about 5 foot. I might just shrink this down just a hair. That way it is more like a walkway. I can unedit those points. Now to save a little time, I'm gonna copy paste, come over here. To best match this, we'll just flip it, I guess. Boom. Drop everything kind of into place. Let's see from the plan if this just makes sense. Sometimes I'll get low and just see if the angles line up, which you can see they don't. This should continue about here. So we're going to move this over right there. We'll get low and you can see right there. Now that lines up. So Then we'll adjust that now. Boom. Edit points. We'll come through here. We can grab this line also and pull it out. There we go. Sometimes that can save you time. In this instance, it did not, but for the right areas, that can be handy. So let's pull this area a little bit out and bend it towards one nice curve, just one swoop. This one needs to be a little more swooped to match. Same with this side. And this one needs to just come out a little, match that curve. That way we see more brick perspective. It looks like pretty good there. See, this one's off just a hair. So what am I going to do? Unedit, click this, edit points. I'm going to bump this one over just a hair. And I'm going to pull this curve in just a little more. That way. There. It looks like more of a little transitional that's a little bit better. So, okay. I can't say I love this walkway 100%, but it's kind of the best way I think I found for now to match this landscape area. So for now, so I'm not staring at this grass, I may drop in some gravel areas. We live in the desert here, so we use a lot of gravel, and we'll kind of play with that now. So I'm going to go to landscape, region, and just to zoom in here, I'll plug in some points, especially where it curves. That way we're not seeing the lawn underneath. And you guys can do this to make mulch. You can do this to make gravel areas. You can do this to make lawn. I would, even if you're doing lawn here, I would draw on a lawn, because then you can adjust the certain types of lawn, shape, color, size, height, all that good stuff with lawn. And that comes in nice. You can see I got that third to last point off, so I'm gonna have to adjust that. What's nice is the program's smart enough to know the curves and contours of this. So that area is mostly done. Let's move it to sharp. Let's go into edit points, because you can see this point. Once I change this, let's just go into a basic tan gravel. You can see I'm seeing lawn in there, so this point has to jump out. There we go. So you'll see this corner is rounded, so I need to select that and actually make it boxed. And that way it holds true to the curve of this patio. This end looks pretty much okay, looks okay. Let's look. This one as well needs to be boxed. Let's follow our line all the way down here. This one should be boxed as well. Okay, so now this is a region. Let's unedit that. Now we have gravel, and pretty good. So let's make another region. This one should be pretty easy. We'll just do some points in here. And we'll make this go, follow this entire angle right here. Might help if we just click a few points along the way. If it's perfectly straight line, you can just click these four corners. Or if, since this is curved, it complicates things a little bit more. But that's not going to be a big issue. Let's click here, close that. Okay. Now let's make it sharp, bring it, and you can add these different textures into your favorites tab like I have here. And that way it's just in there ready to go when you want. I'm probably going to add different textures and colors of gravel to add more interest, but at least those are in there better. Let's do another region. This is something that just takes a little time, and it's one of those things you gotta just plug through, I guess. If I wanted to save time, I could have made a region or two before I made all these walkways, but sometimes I prefer to draw things out before I start making things colorful because it allows me to see things better. There's that. We'll make it sharp. We'll go down here, favorites. I'm just going to make this all the same color, and that way we can see what we're working with. You can hold down the Shift key and select other anchor points, like these corners. And then we can make all of those an angled corner instead of a smooth corner. So you can see that this is already starting to look a lot more like a landscape plan. And even if we did a test walkthrough, you can see how much better this is looking as a house or as a plan in general. When you drop off these certain things as well, the computer is smart enough to know the square footage that you're using as long as you scale this image correctly. And at the end, pricing this is going to be very easy because all the square feet are going to be listed out in a complete materials list, just ready to go. So let's just do this big area as well. This is going to be tricky, though, this retaining wall, and I'll show you kind of when we get there what we'll do with that. Region, I might just kind of play around with this one. Click, click, click. If you guys get bored with some of this, feel free to fast forward. Oop. Now we'll make this sharp. We'll plug this in. Favorites, just gravel. That's just a base gravel that I constantly use. It's something I'm used to and I've had good results with my clients. So it's just a good starting point. It's rare that everyone will use that same gravel or enjoy that same gravel, but it's one of those things. It just makes it easier. Okay, so let's start here. I'll plug this whole thing through. The curves are tricky. If this was a modern plan or kind of just any other type of style that has a lot of 90-degree angles, I would be well on my way to being done with this. But it's not, so we'll just do the best we can with all these angles. With this, I'm just going to power through and go all the way to the end here. And just see if it erases. I'm going to go up one just in case. And I'll explain later why I did that. Click, click, click. Oh, that one's off. Click. Click. You see, you want to follow that line pretty exact. Boom. Okay. Okay, let's just change this, the color, instantly, just so we can see what we're staring at. Let's move it to sharp, edit. I want to pull this one in because I'm seeing some turf underneath it. Let's see, I can see that this walkway disappeared. I'm going to move this out. That way it looks like that side's finished. This corner, we're going to make an actual corner. Let's scroll around here. This one I'm going to make an actual corner. I'll zoom in. This one we're going to do the same, make it a corner. And you can see that what didn't come out right, so I'm going to insert a point, drop it here, pull it back, and I'm going to make that a corner. Same, this point. If I make it a corner, that helps, but not enough, so we're going to have to push it back to the end of the house. This one's good, we'll still make it a corner, and we're good. So I left this corner open so I could unedit these points. I can click this walkway, hit copy, delete it, and then paste. Never mind. Usually that works and that goes on top, but it didn't. So instead, let's undo. And let's edit points. All these points right here, I'm just gonna delete because we need to find this walkway. This one I'm gonna make a corner, insert points. We're gonna plug it and drop it, plug it and drop it, plug it, drop it. I need all of these points to be a curve. I'm going to keep doing this just every few feet or so. Plug and drop, plug and drop. Okay, I want that one to be a corner. And then I'll zoom out. I want to drag and select all of those, make those a curve. That fixed that. And these ones I want to make a curve as well. And these couple ones as well, we want them to be a curve. Now followed that walkway pretty seamlessly. I'm going to unedit all these points, and now that's in there. So let's just do another region. Click, click, click. Because I'm teaching this, it's taking a lot longer. If I was to do this without explaining or thinking how to explain, I'd probably be well done with this plan. But it's better that I show whoever this video might be of help for, so it's worth the time. Edit. Let's drag this back here, select these two, corner those off. This one, let's make that a corner. This one, corner. And you can see if we sharpen it, we're probably pretty good. So now we have our plan. It's pretty ready to go. I can see some turf right here. So I might fix that actually with asphalt. I might make this point, just go back in there, go further. Okay. And on edit, we'll click this, we'll edit that. And I want to make this one a square. That way it kind of at least somewhat dictates how that can look. Okay, we're good. So that way, when we send these people a video of a walkthrough, it's going to start looking more like a house. Now that we have all of those gravels kind of just completed now. Not saying the gravel is the perfect color for the house yet, but that'll come with a little bit of time. So things are looking decent. Okay, now let's look over here. Let's see what else we had. Let's do the flagstone walkway. So to do a perfect shape, let's go to Plan, zoom out. I'm going to draw a perfect shape with this stone edging tool. I'm going to go into my favorites. It's just this black rubber one. We're going to want it to end right about here. It's going to curve and go here, so I'm going to click there. And it's going to loop around here. So straighten out right here. And let's look. I think it ended up about right there, so we'll right click. Let's check our plan. Oh, it kind of continued over here, so it's going to be one swoop, like good. So that's what we'll do. Edit points. This point will come here, all of which will be adjustable, and we're going to pull this one up so it matches. This one's going to be pretty much squared off. This one's going to be pretty much squared off. And you can see how I use this program to draw things for me, because it makes me look like I'm a much better artist than I am, or at least much more exact than I am. So I'm just going to roll with that shape. Okay, let's click that point, drag it just a little up here. I'm going to even this out just a hair. Okay. Just for kicks, let's make it a little less wide so it's a little less annoying. And now we have that. Now we can see it from perspective, and it looks pretty neat. Honestly, the angles of that look pretty neat. So I'm going to use that to highlight the shape of this walkway. Let's go in here, put rock. We're going to go in here to flagstones. I'm just going to select one, and we'll drop it in. So we can do a couple things. We can pull this to where it gets to the size that we need. And you can see on the right, it's showing it's about 1.5 feet by 1.5 feet, somewhere in that range. I'm going to pull it a little bigger and rotate it to the shape that I need right about there. Actually, we're going to make this even a little larger. So that's going to be our first point. I'm going to use this walkway as a guide on how to step those. So I'm going to copy and paste and drag another one. Copy, paste, drag another one. And then I'm going to edit which shape we went with. I'm going to just switch the shape. I'll just pick random shapes, and you can see how they don't necessarily plug into place perfectly. So we're going to edit that like so. And I'm going to put all of these stones, more or less. Let's do this in plan view. It's going to be easier in plan view. I'm going to plug these in to where they are mostly in the center of this line. So I can copy these three and hit copy paste. And now, let's see, we can just keep plugging and pasting these in here to complete this curve. Paste, drag these over. You can see how this just starts to kind of take shape pretty quick. You got to make sure to highlight the right one. Again, I'm plugging all these mostly about in the middle of this line. So that way, when we're in perspective view, it looks like a nice seamless transition of a walkway. This one looks a little different. So let's put it there. Okay. So now we have that shape. We can actually go in here and select more of these, holding down Shift. copying, pasting all of those. Let's do it in the plan view. I'm going to bend these to where they all almost somewhat align. There we go. There might be easier ways to do this, but as far as I know, there's not. And I'm just doing whatever's worked for me. Out here in the desert, we tend to use a lot of materials like this that tend to not wither away, die without lack of water, have issues in the sun. I'm going to perfect these a little bit by rotating them to match the curve of this walkway. I'm not liking the way that things are matching exactly. Let's copy paste that one. We'll put it in there and just change the shape ever so slightly. Put up. For instance, if one is, let's say we want this piece in this shape, but we want it wider, we can scroll down here and unclick this box scale evenly, and you can actually change just one side of this object, like just one. You can pull two edges instead of scale the whole thing evenly. So that tends to work well for a number of different tasks. But we're going to leave these flagstones gray for now, and you can see we have a pretty darn good shape. I'm going to go in here, select this border, and delete it. And now we have a nice curving shape that is leading from one end of the yard to the other pretty seamlessly. And it's just a nice, good shape. So I'm going to leave that. Let's always save our work every so often. Great. Let's see what else we have going on. Okay, we have a retaining wall here. So let's mess around with that. Instead of building a retaining wall that matches this, I'm going to actually grab this, copy and paste it. And we're going to move this over here. I'm going to edit points. I'm actually going to delete all of those points. So now we have this. I want to rotate this, scale it down. It's a pretty nice curve, so we're going to use it. This may have just factored into this really nice without even me trying. So this point, let's make this point a little lower so it matches the wall. We'll make it kind of just blend into the wall. I mean, I really like what I'm seeing here. I think maybe let's see, if I do play with this, pull this over. Just trying to play with this design because this might be a better way before I say anything. Let's square this off to here. You can see why this design program is so nice in person. Like it's because it's almost like you're there in person. To where you can make changes on the fly that you would ordinarily do in the field. If you've been doing this long enough, you can obviously tell what will or will not work in the field, and kind of help save some issues in the future. So we'll just kind of play with that and see what we can get it to do. Can't say I'm loving that as much, so we'll undo a lot of items. I'm thinking this curve might be the best option, to be honest. So instead, I'm going to increase the height of these two pins. Hang on, let's see how high this one is, 1'6". I'm just going to increase this height a little less. That way it has a nice little border shape to it. Yep. Okay, I'm liking that. So we'll just use this for now to be a guide. Okay, we can adjust things on the fly later. So next up, we have this retaining wall, and it's not really retaining. You can see there should be backfilling on the backside of this, is what I'm getting at. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually go to building and make a patio that follows the shape of this curve. I'll do it in the plan view. So I'm going to start here. And in a second, I'll explain why, or I could now. So we're using a patio because, as I explained earlier, the patio is going to stay perfectly level, and we're going to want to show that behind a retaining wall. I don't know, there's probably an actual way to do that with the grading tool or the terrain tool on this program, but I haven't been able to figure that out, and there aren't that many videos online to figure that out. So that's what we're doing. So you can see I'm kind of feathering this. So it's one region. Boom. Edit points. I don't think we need these points there. Okay. So in the perspective view, you can see this looks terrible. We're going to raise the elevation. Let's lower it just a hair, because we're going to start with the bottom and work our way up. Let's lower it just a little more. There. That way, actually just a little bit more. Edit points, this point. I want to lower just a hair. No. Well, yeah, I actually do like that. So we're going to make this patio not have a border. We have to go to border, none, and we're going to go up to here, we're going to choose stone. Maybe I favored it. Yeah, I did favorite that stone. So we're going to use that as stone. And that way you can see now this wall is retaining over here. I'm going to try and edit these points over here so that the elevation on those, oh, no, it's not letting me do that. Okay, so it's letting me only keep this level, and I think because I've only done this a few different ways. So I'm going to play around with some grading here and show you some alternative ways to make this look good. I'm going to leave this patio. I wanted to check our layers here. I'm going to lock this and unlock this elevation one and play around with the terrain tool. I'm going to drop a height grid over this entire thing right here. The points, I believe if I raise all these points, that should work. If I raise this one, that should work. Okay, so we're getting there. It's not perfect. I'm going to unedit that, change the line style to no line, and I'm actually going to drop another height grid over this. And edit those points themselves as well. Instead, I'm going to do it point by point, just to see how this changes things. So you can see how I'm trying to push other points up, pull other points down, so that we have some retaining. I wanted to show that this wall is actually a retaining wall. Drop this here, push this back, edit these points. Actually, I want some points on the other part of this wall, edit points. You can see I'm just doing this by trial and error. Trial and error, trial and error. Trying to match this, blend this to where it all looks like it is In fact, retaining. Now these ones, I definitely have to pull this one down, push this one up. But we're getting there to where now we have some retaining on the back side of this wall. And I think that's going to do okay for now. So I'm going to do line style, no line, because this will show a line on the plans. I don't even know why it would want to be a line. No line. Okay. So now the grading is mostly right. Cancel. For fun, let's go to building, patio. And we'll drop a patio shape like, we'll load an octagon. And we'll move this over here. We'll raise this to like, I don't know, 15 feet. And then we can go into walkthrough and see it from this angle. You can tell now it looks like we do have retaining there. And it's looking pretty good for us, so we're going to kind of hold that. I think it's good enough for now. For the average homeowner, I think this will be plenty, and this will be good. See, so what we did is I made a raised patio that I could view from in a walkthrough, and that just kind of showed me if things look okay. So we'll delete that, and we'll move on to the next. So let's see, we have three main trees, or three main plantings here. We have three main plantings here to prevent from leaves, and we have a couple that arc around here. So let's start throwing some plants in. As far as plantings go, the plantings are going to be due to whatever work for your industry and your area, but you can select a plant and actually just drop a plant somewhere and change. I set up a whole favorites list. These are all plants that thrive in my area. You can put one plant in. Let me select this. I just realized I'm in our elevations tab. Let's get out of here. Actually, let's just create a new tab. Add a layer and call it plants. Okay. So this allows you to drop one plant. This allows you to fill an area. Like we could say, I want this whole area to be plants, and you'll see what it does. And you can taper, you can say that you want 34 plants in the area, and it'll do that, or you can space those evenly, or just leave them random. Or you can use this plant row tool, which I happen to love. We can go and plant, we'll say we'll plant one here, here, and here. We'll right click, and it's automatically going to give us 10 plants. I'm going to scroll it down to 3 because I know that there's 3 plants. For now, we'll go into favorite and I'll just put lilacs in that corner. So you can see it evenly spaced 3 plants there, and it just kind of saves half the work if you do it that way. So I use, when you go to these plants, you have models, which to me look just a little bit fake, you can tell. You have ultra res, which looks a little better, but I use the pictures. I think the pictures look a lot more realistic, especially when people see it through the walkthrough. So this is how I kind of use a lot of this to design. So I want some to follow this wall here. So I'm going to do a plant row. I'm going to start at one end of the wall here. Bink. I'm going to just select a few points that are throughout here, and the program will do the rest. I'm going to put it right there, right click. See how it evenly put plants around this whole wall? Looks pretty nice. Let's do 7. We want to try and plant in odd numbers. Let's go to pictures, favorites. For those areas, let's just say we do an English lavender, which I think would look decent. Let's see, we'll play around with plants as we go. but that might look nice. We could also do some grasses if we want some height. You can see how it starts to play out. So it looks like a little much plantings to me, so I might do 5 just so we're not overbearing. From this view, I think it's a little odd, so I might edit points and shrink this one down to it matches with the wall. And I might actually pull this one out just a hair. So that way it's evenly spaced a little bit better alongside that wall. I don't like those plants. We're going to move to something else. For now, we could try, what would a catmint look like? That's pretty low. You can also select things by how many years, like the starting age. This one might be decent as a boxwood. We can go to search, just type in box, and you're going to find a bunch of boxwoods. Let's add just these boxwoods and just see where they're at. Those look pretty great. I might put them as a little bit smaller just to keep them a little tidy. We'll just leave that there for now. Let's look and see what else. We had 5 staggered throughout here. So let's stagger something in here. Unedit this plant. I'm going to go to my plan, cruise through here. Dink, dink, dink. Dink and dink. Right click. We're going to move it down 5, and you can see how it automatically looks good. So these 5, let's just say that we put as favorites. Let's plug English lavenders in there and just see how that looks. So okay, so I'm going to just leave those plants as is for now. I might edit the plants later, but at least I'll get some kind of basic plantings in. We'll just go through here and play around with some plants. So on this plan, let's see, I also had a couple plantings in the back that might creep over, so we're going to go through here. I'm going to plug and play probably 3 creeping roses. Rock rose. Technically that is kind of a creeping rose, but it's not going to work. So we will say rose. We searched rose, and we'll find one that kind of does look like it's creeping. Like this guy. And I'm going to relabel this and say creeping rose. Okay. That way they at least have something back there that's providing a little color for them. As far as this area, I'm going to want to plant 3 items right here in an L shape. 1, 2, 3. Let's make these some kind of really neat, probably really neat evergreen. Oh, this is going to get a lot of shade here, so we could use, well, I get somewhat shade. So let's actually just prefer, let's do a photinia. And let's show them, if they trim it down, what size that would be. so that way they can see that it would. We'll do 1.2. That way it'll hopefully guard against some weeds or some leaves that blow in. And you can see it looks pretty good. We might bump this out just a hair from the corner. And I might shrink these in just a hair, just so they look a little tighter grouping. So now it's looking pretty nice. I think this stucco needs something tall here, something tall, so I'm going to do a single plant. We're going to drop it right in the middle, and we're going to change it out to be something in my favorites list. We'll try an emerald green. That may not be a bad option. I don't think it's a good highlight plant, so I'm going to switch this to be probably a crepe myrtle. It's just not looking right, so let's see. See, this one's actually going to be a little tricky. Well, for now, I'll just do it as this, and we'll continue on. So I'm going to want 3 plants that border this, and we can drop in a region with 1, 2, 3, right click. We'll go down to 3 plants. Actually, for this option, 4 might look okay. Actually, 4 might look best. So I'm going against what I just said about mainly doing mainly doing odds. Let's see what Mugos. No, Mugos don't look good there. We'll just do a Japanese barberry. That's a classic. That'll look really good there. This area, I'm guessing that they could use a little privacy. This area gets a ton of shade. So I'm going to just try planting here something like a blood good Japanese maple. That might be really nice there, just between the windows. I might reduce it down just a hair and no, I think before was fine. And that way they can see what that'll look like. I'm not liking how it is going to kind of block those windows, so we might just pull this over here. It's going to enjoy the shade and kind of help cover space against this wall. You can see it back there. It's going to look actually pretty neat, especially next to the red gate. So I'm going to roll with that. Underneath that, I might do a little arc of something. Let's do, for fun, let's do something that starts here, zigzags, and we can stop it there. We'll cut down the plants, and we'll do something kind of a ground cover. Favorites, we'll do a cabinet just to play around with that, and we'll reduce it so it looks a little organized. That way something's looking just a little nice over there. I might reduce it down to 5. That way they're grouped. There. Now you can see it's a nice little grouping of color to see outside that window. As far as shade leveling right there, I might just throw in a Nandina, just because the Nandina is going to be fine. Let's go in here, favorites. Just this Nandina 2 is going to do just fine in between there. There, nice and tidy. I'm going to actually copy and paste that out to bring out here. I might produce a couple plantings to be strategically planted around this. And an andina might just be the best one. To go around all of these. That way that helps. Now along this back wall, I don't like how it's so plain, so I might throw in a row of something right there. Punch in 3. Go here, pictures, favorites. Ideally something that would look nice up against that wall. Provide a little height. Let's just say a star jasmine for now. You can see how we're starting to get a little shape involved. Now I want something up here too. Something a little evergreen, maybe something flowering. We have some nice spots. Let's start with the center-based plant, and actually from this view, we're going to make sure it's centered in there. Actually, plan will even help us more so, just to make sure that it's centered in there, and then we're going to change it. We'll do a crepe myrtle there. That way this is just standing nice and tall. And underneath it, we're going to do a little wraparound of some flowering shrubs. Let's do plant row. Let's load a shape. Let's see if there's a shape that we might like in a plant row. Let's try a circle. We'll reduce this down. A little less. Okay, perspective. See how neat that's coming out. Edit points. I may, let's see. Let's make this something like, something fun. Something fun, gonna give them a lot of color. Actually, we could just do this blanket flower. That might actually come in pretty nice. It's gonna be too bright, actually. Let's do purple ice plants. That's good, but let's grab this one, delete this one, delete. I like how it's following the curve. To match this, I might put a boulder here. We can move it down to being boulders. I can just kind of pick a neat boulder, make it the color I want, double click, we'll scale it down, we'll turn it. And then we're going to make it more look like it went around the pathway like that. So I'll also go to elevation and do like -2 inches, and that way it sunk it down into the earth. And I'm going to grab a plant and actually put one little grass just behind there, because that grass will make it look like it's nice and tidy back there. A little maiden grass. Actually, this I want to rotate differently. Placing this here. This grass I'll place right here. So, obviously this plan is getting there. So far, so good. Now, I'm going to unlock this layer 1 and grab this retaining wall. Copy paste. Put it over here. Because what they wanted on their list was an address bar, like something decorative to show off their address. Actually, I'm going to delete those 2 points, leave this, shrink it down, and turn it. They may, the whole thing I want as 1 point. I don't want to step in that point, so we're going to make the whole wall a certain height. Say 18 inches. We're going to play around with different shapes. I'm thinking one of these points has to go. Let's delete this one. You can see that's just a little too big. Let's reduce that whole thing down to be. Oh, yep, you can see what I did there. Let's select everything. Let's just go to 12 inches. I'm just going to play around here and see what might make the most sense for a shape. That doesn't look too bad. Let's see how it looks from the house. Not too bad either. There's no right or wrong way to do this, but at least this will allow us to play around with it and see how it would look from different angles. Let's even do a little test and do a walkthrough to see how that shape might play out. Because we want to be able to put an address on that, and it has to be visible enough. Let's do here. I'm going to say if this gets tilted just a little bit, let's just delete that point for fun, edit points. Let's go back and just see how that might look. I like it, but I have a new idea. So I like the shape. I think I want to edit points, insert points, and insert one like here and one about here. And then these 2 points, I increase the elevation so it looks pretty darn good. Okay, I think that's looking pretty cool, actually. We'll just leave it at that and see how they like it, because we can always make changes. I wonder if in accessories, I don't know the answer to this, if they do have numbers. No. Let's just look through all and see if there's something we could put as a plate there, or something that, oh, actually, never mind. We can terrain features, modeling, plan detail, utilities, 3D text. Okay, so their address is 1104. We're going to enter that in there. Scoot over, shrink this down. I'm going to bring this up towards 0 degrees. Looks like it just 0. We can just pop this in there. That way that looks pretty slick for a number. Right about there. Now let's make it something that's going to pop. Let's see how this will look on the video that we will send them eventually. That's pretty sharp. I might just shrink it down a little in size. This is me being picky. Let's make the elevation of it higher. Okay, so this, let's make it edit points. We want this point to be 1'8" now. And this point and this point. Okay, that looks pretty sharp. Now let's do our handy dandy landscape tool. Drop in 1, 2, 3 plants. Let's do some in our favorites list as well. We will do just some Indian hawthorns. We'll throw those in. We'll see what that looks like. They need to be smaller though. Hang on, we might want something a little larger in all reality. Let's do, oh, perfect. We can do some knockout roses. And that way, what I want to do is edit these points and actually drag some of these out a little further. I just noticed that you can see the numbers of this from the other side. So the depth, I'm going to bring it to much less and drag this out to where you can see it. Okay, so now we have an address bar. Let's see what else we might want to put. Might be nice to put something leading around. Trying to think of a design real quick. Let's actually put an edging in here. Right there. Right click. Edit points. I'm going to select everything. Make this go up. Let's do a plan. You can see a lot of what I do here is just testing the different curves to see how this looks. Okay, so I think we got it figured out now. I'm going to zoom in here. I like this, so we're going to continue this path along here. We're going to make a region that just goes like so. That way the whole thing matches. We'll end that then. We'll move it to sharp. Concrete. We'll match it. Edit these points. We'll make them all individually. Sometimes you really got to zoom in to make it match perfect. Pop that up. Just kind of straighten it out. That way, more or less, that's just done. We'll zoom out of here, add a plant row from A to B. Right click so it's done. We'll do 3 of those guys. We're just going to put in red yuccas here. And pictures, favorites, red yuccas. Okay, I'm going to swing around over to here. I'm going to add in just a grouping of 3. And we're going to make these guys just a simple little Indian hawthorn. 1, 2, 3. Right click. These ones we're going to do some creeping. Search. Do a creeping cotoneaster. And then when you go to the plan view, it's going to show you what it's going to look like on the plan. And you can see these ones are the default. So you're going to have to go in here to symbol, uncheck default, and then you can choose something different. That way they can tell the difference between A and B. Uncheck, check. We'll do this one vibrant. We'll make these ones like that. That way they're all different. I'm going to delete that. We're going to go in here. Actually, we're going to do a stone edge. And we're going to start here, curve through, and we'll go up to here. Right, like so. Edit points, select both, drag these out. This one will go right here. This one will go right here. Okay, so I'm going to use this to okay, so what I'm going to do as a design for this is I'm going to drop this in here. I'm going to reduce the width down. I might just increase the height up just so I can see it better. I'll uncheck the scale evenly and make the width more narrow. There, now you can see it. I'm going to do a line of boulders because I said they didn't like a river rock look. So I'm going to drop a boulder in here. Let's make it an actual boulder. Now we'll pick something more of a statement rock like this. We'll drop it down. I'm thinking they're going to like this kind of moss rocky look. I like that. I think that looks pretty good right there. So let's leave that. I'm going to copy and paste this to be here. And we're going to make a different boulder shape. We're going to basically align quite a few boulders to where they, let's see, to where they look like they're all staggered in a little line, just kind of for decorating. So this one, I'm actually going to drop down into the earth a little bit to expose this other one. This one I'm going to drop down maybe an inch or so. Paste, drop this one over here. I'm going to just keep kind of piling together some of these things. This one I like at the end actually because it's a good shape and it's smaller. Rotate it like so. I like dropping all these boulders into the earth because that's what we do in real life. I'm just going to copy and paste a couple of these here and there. That way we can tell just a difference among them. This one will turn. We'll use its width as a benefit. I'm going to shrink it down in size a little bit. We'll drop it down. This one will change. We'll pick something like this that's a little more oblong. Actually, I like the ramp up that it has, so I might just go like that. Paste, and you can see how pretty quickly we have an array of boulders designed in a way that hopefully look nice. So let's just choose something. A lot of times it's best not to think on things too much and to just let things happen. Paste. We'll drop this in here. We'll pick something a little more round. Or no, we'll go square actually. And we'll turn it this way. And then we'll drop it down. And set. I don't like that there, so I'm going to change it into this guy. Okay. So now I can click here and delete that. And now I'm left with some really neat boulders in an array that I think I can use to make that work. I'm actually going to use this to make a region. I'm going to make sure in this region that the curve is selected, and I'm going to scoot my little curve here and make like a teardrop type of shape. I'm going to make this to sharp, and this is kind of what we do in the desert. We're going to go to favorites and make a cobblestone look, and that way it's all blended in. But then to even make it look a little more real, we're going to go to height and bump the height up a couple steps. That way at least it has a little bit of slope to it, and there we go. That way I think that's kind of looking a little better, adding some more interest. And what we're going to do is we're going to put, we can actually do a plant row. We can do one right here and one right here, and just pull this all the way down to 2. And we're going to put, let's say we'll just put 2 rosemary. But I'm going to shrink those down because the variety I use will be a very small variety that stays small and just looks nice against that. And it's going to stay evergreen. So we'll do that. I'm going to put one plant dead center right here. And we will use favorites. This is going to be a pretty big impact bush. Let's use a large lavender. I'm going to move it back in there, actually drop that down a hair, just to look like it's set within that gravel. That may actually be a little too big, so let's shrink it down a hair. And that way you can tell that this will look pretty nifty. I'm going to pull this back. I'm actually going to drop this down even more. That way it's in there, and you can see it just looks nice and neat back in there. I think right here in the front, we need to add a little something, and maybe we do a plant fill. We don't need 200 plants, we just might need, let's say, that many, 8. And instead of that plant, we will go into our favorites again. And why don't we use cabinet? If we use a cabinet, I think that might look kind of nice. Obviously, we'll make them a little smaller. We'll add a 0.5 to the size just to raise them up a little bit. I'm going to shrink the size down to make it look a little more tidy. That way this is there and they can see that we have something in place there. Okay, now let's go right here. We'll add a plant row. I'm going to click right in line with that, right into the corner here, and right here, right click, and we'll enter 3 for 3 plants. And let's make these ones, these little flowering blanket flowers. And that way they have some color out here. I think that might look nice. I might even add some. I'm going to copy and paste these over here just so it matches. We'll rotate it to match opposite. Let's look from an above view, shrink that down in size. We're going to push that back up there. So that way, if you're looking at it, it's kind of spaced out evenly. I'm actually just going to get simple and place one red yucca right here. Favorites, red yucca. You can see it's really starting to take shape. I did put some red yuccas over here, and I think those are going to play well nicely there. I think this is neighbor's property, but for kicks I might put just a couple shrubs there. And we'll make it down to 3. We'll just use something basic that's in my favorites, like I'll just say a mugo pine. Okay, it's really starting to look like a plan now. So let's try this. Let's make building patio, and we'll load a shape. We'll just load a circle, and we'll scoop this out here, and we'll raise this to be about 15 feet. And then we'll copy and paste, and I'm going to pull a few of these around the yard. Now you can see those are raised up. Okay, so I dropped these in here so we can grab with this middle clicker on the wheel, and we can get ourselves right to or right about on it, it feels like, and then we hit walkthrough. And let's quick go through the environment settings. You'll remember I took off the skyline by unclicking this box. The season, I'm going to leave it on summer. Real-time walkthrough, everything's fine. I just turned on wildlife, so there's not butterflies everywhere. The sound, I'll leave it as default. People tend to like that, even though I hate the sound. It's on 11 a.m., so we'll just leave that. And moon style, to me, doesn't really matter unless you're doing something really at night. So we'll click OK, and we'll just see what it puts us at. And you can move the mouse to turn things down, but you can see from up here, I'll right click to walk forward just a hair. And from here, things are looking pretty neat. I think it's looking okay. Let's take a look further down. Actually, let's exit this. I want to grab this walkway and pull it out another 10 feet or so. Same with this one. Same with this one. I'm going to pull it out in both directions. Okay, so now there's another way we can do this too. We can go to walkthrough and hit enter. And if we walk into kind of the shade of this structure, it's going to pop us up on top of that. Right, like so. So what you can do is if you can walk to the edge of this platform. If you like this, if you like the way things are looking, you can walk a little more towards the edge. And you can take a screenshot and send this as a screenshot to them, and it's going to really show them what it would look like from the nice upper angle. These upper angles tend to look better. Let's turn the mouse over to the right and walk down. We'll walk across. Boom, 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 boom. We'll go up to this one, and boom, we're up. So we can see what this will look like from all these different angles. I think they're really going to like the look of this address. That was one of the big things that they wanted, was that address in there. I think that we can do something real quick to fancy up this little address area just a little bit better. So let's jump out of here and see, and I'll zoom in. Okay, so I'm going to come in here, cruise through here. I like this ground cover, and I like this, but I don't think there's enough variation in the gravel colors. So I'm going to go to landscape, add a region, and from here, I'm going to click over here about midway and here, and I'll drop some pins just along there. Now I have a new region, so I'm going to make it sharp. I want to make this a different type of gravel. That's not different enough. We'll do this one. That way, let's click on this and we'll edit a point. This one, let's make like this. We'll make it pop out a little bit. This one, I'm going to make it look like this as well. Make it pop out a little bit. And this is going to be the key one right here. We'll pop this out and make this spread that way. Let's see if we like that. Unedit these points. This might just change these points now. We'll zoom in to fill this. Okay, I'm going to add a couple plants now that we made this more of a planter. And I'll see what I think, what this looks like. We'll click off in the distance so we can see. Hard to say if it looks better or not. I'm going to actually undo all those things just because I would say it's better. It was worth a shot though. Sometimes you have to go through those motions just to see if you do like things or not. Totally worth a shot. We can always add and make different changes once these customers see this plan and we do some revisions. Obviously we want to minimize revisions, but this is one of those things. Yeah, I think it looks fine as is. So we're going to leave that. And if we do a video, these things are going to render shadows in this video, as you saw earlier. So I'm going to delete all these. I'm going to delete this guy. Let me delete. Okay, so let's say we like this. Let's say we really like the way this is. We're going to want to make a video of it to impress the clients that we're trying to get hired for this job. And the way I've found that impresses people more so than just sending these screenshots, which will be good to send them screenshots, is to actually send them a video of what the yard would look like. So we can go into utilities up here and click real-time camera. And we're going to want to make a line in the direction that we want the camera to pan through this. So this street is a cul-de-sac over here, so they're always going to be entering the house from over here to the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to think that they're going to want to see it the way they come home every day. So I'm going to click once here. We'll probably fly around here, and then I'll have it swoop through maybe at a different angle above and then come back to look at the front door, look outward from the front door. So we will kind of just follow the path of the road. And then I'll show them over here. And then I'm actually going to show them an aerial view right there. And I'll probably have them go back down over there and I'll have them fly probably through here and then back around to the driveway so they can see it from the driveway angle right there, and I'll right click. So that made a line, and you can see that this line has a camera here, and this camera is probably about 8 feet off the ground or so, which is good for some things, but what I like to do is make it look more like a drone image. And let's select all of these, and we can make the elevation go instead from 6 feet, and it shows you a preview here. Instead from 6 feet, we'll bump it all the way up to, let's say, 14 feet. So now we can see that, and we can adjust the angle of the camera. Oh, I messed that one up. We can adjust the angle of the camera to look downward a little bit. Like so. So that's going to be a good starting point. Now I know for a fact that I want this point and this point to be taller, so I'm going to move that up to about 22 feet or so. We'll just say 22 feet. Okay. Yeah, good number, 22 feet 2 inches. This one, I want to bump down to like 8 feet. We're going through here just to show different heights. You can see now where the height of the camera is. And this one, I'm going to want this one to be lower too. Probably about like so. This one, probably lower too. And these two, I'm going to bump down lower as well, like so. Okay, so now, actually I might start this at ground level, or not at ground level, but a little lower too. Okay, so now we got to go through here and do each point separate. So this point, you can adjust the elevation, the direction, and the angle. The angle's good, the elevation's good. I'm going to turn the angle, or the direction, so it faces the house a little bit better. Now we're going to just move on to the next point. And you want to make sure each of these points is where you want it. So you can tell the angle's not good enough, so I want it to face down. And I want to pull it back to get a little bit better view on the house. I might change the direction a little bit, just so it's like so. I'm going to change this one now to where it's looking at the house a little differently. So we're seeing the neighbor's house too much. I want to see the house that we're landscaping. We want to see right here. These clients want to see their house. There's that, and we want to pull it back some because they're going to want to see it from the curb. This one, same thing. We're going to want to change it to where this looks over here. We can still see that little arch. We're going to turn it down a little notch, and that way, if I pull it back, they're seeing it, and I might even pull it a little more to the side, just like so. And you do this with each pin, and before you or not, you get good at it. And what happens, see, this isn't showing anything right now, so I want to pull this over here and just completely sweep this angle down so they can see what we're doing. Just bit by bit, you want to just make it happen slowly but surely. There we go. Okay, now I have this one that's really high, and we're going to face this angle all the way down, and I'll show you why in the video. The direction, we're going to want to change it to be pretty much in line with the house. We'll change it all the way till about right there. I might even make this higher so they can see what it looks like. And I'm going to add a point in here that's equally as high. And it's just going to make that camera stay a little higher. Now this point is low. This point drops down, turns, and looks outward. That way they can see what it will look like from their door. See, I don't like this, so I'm going to bump it back inside their walkway a little bit more. That way they can tell what it's going to look like. Now this thing is going to pan through. And this one is going to turn and look back at the house. Let's insert a point here. And we'll turn this angle down a little bit. And then this one, we will crank over to the right a little and crank it down for sure. Now this one, I think that's pretty good. We might just change it a little bit to turn towards the house. This one, it's not really showing us anything, so I'm going to bump it forward. And I'm actually going to come closer to the address. And we can crank up the elevation a little, turn the direction down, and turn this down too. So what we're going to do, I'm going to crank up the height, move it back a little, crank down the angle, move it even more to the right. Actually, I'm going to turn the height down, that way they can see it. Now I'm going to make this one hold for about 1 second, and that's going to make the video end look like an end. And now we're good. Before we do anything, let's save our work again. I'll save it as this guy. There we go. Now let's do a walkthrough of the whole thing. Now instead of standard, you can click real-time camera. Camera 1, and you can get create movie, and that creates a movie, or you can click OK and it'll pan through there and show you what this looks like. It moves a little slow and a little glitchy, but keep in mind when you do make the video will be completely smooth. And we'll walk through the settings before we do that. So this will be a trial to see if everything works out fine and if all the angles kind of look correct. Of course, you can see the house roof isn't exact. There's little things that aren't exact, but it's good enough. I don't have to put any more details into this because it is truly good enough for most people. So let's see, it pans throughout here, and it just looks pretty good. Overall, I think it's looking nice. You can see the bench in the entryway. You can see the address really nice. These rocks are really nice with that accented lavender in there. And I think those boxes look nice around this curving wall. The curving wall tends to look really, really nice with this shape of the yard going on and all these curves. So as this comes around, you'll see how it increases in height and just tends to look really, really nice. It's a lengthy video, but it's going to turn out well for them. So what we typically do is we let this render, and we'll upload it in YouTube. And then in YouTube, you can create a video a couple different ways. You can make a video to where it's public, and it kind of gains authority on your YouTube channel for your business, or if you're a designer for your design firm. And a second option is that you can make it private, to where someone would have to get an access link, and anyone with that link could view the video, but it won't be searchable on YouTube. And the other option is that it's completely private, so only you can view it. It depends on what you'd like. I either make it public and share it to people, or I can make it as a private link and let people know just where to go. And I email them some screenshots of this. I email them a top view plan, and I email them the link to this video. But above all else, the video is what really, really gets people excited about their plan. It really helps them make sense of everything. So you can tell we're going towards the house now. The camera's panning down, and we're about to fly over these trees. We might fly slightly through these trees, which is fine. Again, when we render the video, if we do it right, these trees and this video won't be so glitchy, so ... type of thing. I like the look of going over those trees so close, and then this camera will turn. There you go, almost like a drone. Now it's going to square off with the house and then sink down into the entryway so they can tell what it will also look like when they exit the house, which I think will be a pretty cool little feature for them as well. So it's dropping down, dropping down. And the camera will pan back. And this is also what's so neat about this program, is that it has the ability to do this video fly through however you would like to see it, and it really tends to look high quality. If possible, I'm going to edit the actual video of this into the end so you can see what it would look like, and then we can go from there just to show you why all this effort was worth it. See, now they can tell what it's going to look like as they walk out to any cars with any guests. And then it's going to pan around to show some details on the address bar and kind of the main accents that you see when you pull up to the house. Keep in mind this playback is much slower than when it actually does render. I'd say this is probably a 2 or 3 minute video as we're watching now, but when we render it, it's going to be about 30 seconds, maybe 40 seconds, I would imagine. Probably not 60 seconds, but we'll see once we render it. There it is. So far, I think the video is great. I'll probably render this up without any changes. I think it's looking really nice. That way it pans out with the house right there. You can see all the different elevations in the yard and the retaining walls and the details. And we'll go towards the house, that way they can see it from the garage. I try and incorporate all those angles that the customer might see it from when they're in the garage, when they're in their walkway, when they're in front of their house, when they're taking out the trash cans out the side of the house. That way the video kind of answers any questions they might have. See, this shows it from the garage view, and then it's going to go back out and end right here, facing at the address, because I think that's the best view right there. And we'll pause for about a second right about here. And there it is, it's going to stop here in about 2 seconds. So that's that. Okay, so now I'll walk you through how we make a video. We're going to click walkthrough. It's going to be real-time camera, the camera one that we just made. We have our environment settings ready, and I'm going to click create movie. And what's going to happen is I can title it, I'll just say movie blah, just so I remember what that is. Save. And now it asks what resolution. I leave it to where it's in this 1080, which is the highest definition available from the drop down. This 20 bits per second is fine. Instead of 30 rates per second, I put 60. And that doubles how many frames your eye will see in a second. And it makes the video smoother. So we'll just click OK, and that'll render the video. It takes anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour, depending on how many points and how much video info you have. Alrighty, so here's the final video. We'll hit play. That way you can see exactly what this is going to look like. You can see now it has a nice pan through, it's nice and clean, everything's really precise, and you can send this video directly to your client, and that way you know that they're going to see this and be like, oh my god. Yes, this is a good landscape plan, but when you see it in a video format like this, it looks 10 times more amazing. It especially amazes people who are not tech savvy, and which happens to be most of your clients, I'm sure. So this is how we do it. This is how it's increased my business's revenue significantly. It's increased people's ability for them to view what I'm envisioning for their yard, and it increases my ability to sell people at a higher rate because they truly see the end result. So this is a video. If you guys have any questions, comment, feel free to email me, feel free to message me on any social media. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was a help to you. Again, this is Realtime Architect. It's 2018 version, and this was took in total about 3 hours. But if I did this without showing you how and editing, once you get this down, this will be like an hour type of thing, if that. So I hope you guys can use this in your business to help make yourselves stand out from all the competition. And I hope you guys have this in your arsenal to make you the best of the best.